What's going on, guys? Making this video for you really quickly, just going through 10 money lessons I wish I had learned when I was 18 years old. And the thing is, man, most of these people in the world that we all know, most people don't even learn these lessons when they're 45, 50, 60 years old. Most people don't even ever figure these lessons out. So I want to share some things that I learned that I hopefully think will help you guys out, and that I definitely believe will, hopefully make you guys more successful if you're able to listen to this and execute these. So we're just going to jump right into it. I don't want to waste your time. So the very first lesson is the importance of compounding interest and why that is so much better to invest when you're young as possible, as opposed to investing later in life. And I actually heard a quote, I don't know who it was from, but I had heard this quote one time and it always kind of stuck with me. And it basically goes like, the money that you earn in your 20s is far more valuable than the money that you earn later in your life, like let's say in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. And as you get older, the money that you earn becomes less and less valuable. Why? Because you have less time for that money to compound and for that interest to grow, right? So if I invest $10,000 when I'm 18 years old, that $10,000 is going to have a lot more time to grow, obviously, if assuming I, invest it correctly and I'm smart with the money, obviously, that's a given. But that $10,000 is going to be a lot more valuable over time versus if I invested that $10K when I was, 28 years old, right? You're going to have 10 more years for that money to be able to work for you and to be able to compound. Pretty simple lesson, but I think everybody would be surprised with how little most people know about money. That's why the average American is in so much debt. They struggle. They live paycheck to paycheck. I think over half the entire country, doesn't even have $1,000 in savings for an emergency that popped up. Like, that's insane if you think about that. The average American doesn't have any kind of financial literacy on how to manage money, how to make money, how to be relevant in the marketplace, how to, network with other people. They don't know all these skills that are essential to be successful in life, right? Again, that's the whole point of this channel, is to share some of this stuff that, most people don't know, right? So number one, compounding interest is so important, and you guys have to invest as soon as you possibly can. We talk about this in all the other videos as well on this channel. You guys know how important it is to invest. I don't think I need to go too much into that. So compounding interest is extremely valuable, and the sooner you could start investing, the better. Okay. Number two, your income matters a lot more than budgeting, right? I've mentioned this in other videos as well, is you need to be focusing on generating more active income as opposed to, clipping coupons and saving every single dollar you possibly can. And again, don't get me wrong. It's very, very important to stay frugal and to not spend money and to, live as cheap as you possibly can. I talk about this all the time. This is one of the things that I talk about most. But you need to focus on generating more income, because if you're earning $40K a year, $30K a year, $50K a year, while that's enough for you to hopefully survive, you're not ever going to be able to invest enough money to be able to get ahead, at least in a reasonable time period. If you're one of these people who wants to, become a millionaire by the time you're 65 years old and have zero time left on planet Earth, then, maybe that's a good plan for you. But that's not what I want to do. I want to be able to invest and save an excess amount of money. And the only way for you to do that is to earn an excess amount of money, compared to your monthly expenses, right? So you have to make a lot more money than you spend. Very simple stuff, right? And the only way to do that is to earn a lot more money, right? So your number one goal should be to increase your active income. It does not matter how much money you're making right now. You could be making 100K, 200K, 300K, 20K, 30K, 50K. It doesn't matter. You need to always be increasing your active income and pushing to be able to drive more dollars into the top of the funnel, so to speak, so that you can, save those dollars and invest that money, right? So income matters more than budgeting, okay? Number three, you guys need to avoid lifestyle creep, because this is something that is very real. Once I started making pretty decent money, I started noticing this, becoming a thing. When you start making more money, you're going to start spending more money, right? Very simple stuff, because again, you have the cash laying around to be able to buy things, right? And it's difficult to say no to that, that intuition when it comes to like, hey, I really want this, and, I can afford it, I should buy it, right? Why not? YOLO, right? That's the thoughts that we all have, right? But we have to avoid that as much as possible, and we have to live cheap and stay, broke, so to speak, as we continue to earn more money. And this is something that we want to always keep in mind. It doesn't matter if we're, doubled our income, this year or last year, whatever it might be. If you make more money, you should stay living on the same amount of money. You don't want to increase your expenses, because then you just become a slave to your income, right? You become a slave to your job, right? You're just working to pay for all your stuff at that point. That's where the vast majority of Americans are in that position, because they have a house that they can't afford. They have kids, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with having kids by any means. I want to be clear, but they have kids that they probably can't afford, and they have, a spouse that they take care of, all this different kind of stuff, man. And they just end up being slaves to their job, and they can't quit their job because they have to pay for all this stuff, and they have a car they have to pay for, and a house, and all this, trips, all this different stuff, man. And they end up becoming trapped, and that's not where you want to be. You want to avoid lifestyle creep as much as you possibly can. Live cheap, live like you're broke as long as you possibly can, especially in your 20s, especially in your 30s. And whenever you're ready to, expand your lifestyle and, be able to spend a little bit more money, you can do so responsibly, because you've been earning and investing that entire time, as opposed to just spending all the money that you earn, right? At that point, you're just on the hamster wheel, right? So compounding interest. Number 2, income matters more than budgeting. Number 3, avoid lifestyle creep. Number 4, credit is so important, right? I'm going to make a whole nother video about this. I don't think we have one on this channel just yet at the time of this video being recorded, but credit is extremely important, guys. You need to use this as a tool, and it's not free money, right? If you have a credit card, you don't need to be out there shopping and doing all this different kind of stuff just because you can spend more money than you would typically be able to do, right? Very common sense kind of thing. Nothing groundbreaking when it comes to this. You need to make sure you're getting your credit score as high as possible. And again, we'll make another video about that specifically. You need to make sure that you're paying off bad debt and you are being responsible with your credit, because that is extremely important in this life, right? So that's number 4. Number 5, you can make money without a degree, right? A lot of people still have this old mindset from the 1950s, 1960s, thinking that you have to go to college to make any kind of real money in this world. And that's not the way it is anymore. Back in, 50, 60 years ago, that was how it was. If you didn't go to college, you couldn't really get a good job, and you didn't have a very good trajectory in terms of being able to be successful. You just had to start your own business or something. But even that was way more difficult without the internet. So my point is, you do not have to go to college. If you're in, high school or maybe of college age right now, and you're thinking that you have to go just because your parents are pressuring you or your friends are all going, whatever it might be, just know that you do not have to do that, and that you can make tremendous amounts of money online learning skills that are actually valuable in the world. You can learn all this stuff on YouTube. You could take a few courses. You could pay some mentors. You could probably spend, I'm not even joking around, you could probably spend, $2,000-$3,000 total on books, on education, on mentorship, on paying, consultants to teach you, and working jobs. And you can make way more money than all these people who are going and spending $100,000 a year to go get an art degree, right? Or $100,000 for an entire college, tuition. College is a joke, man. Unless you're going to be, a lawyer or a doctor specifically, then it's pretty much a waste of time. That's just the honest truth. I do think there's some value in college, and I think that value kind of comes from the networking and being able to have fun and be able to kind of enjoy your 20s. I think that's definitely valuable, but in terms of, a monetary return and, am I going to make more money by going to college? I just don't think it's worth the trade. If you want to spend 4 or 5 years in school and, busting your butt, doing all that and studying and doing all this different kind of stuff that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, then that's great, but I just don't think it's valuable. And, you guys can let me know in the comments if you disagree. Again, there's a lot of successful people that have gone to college. There's plenty of successful people that didn't. So it works both ways, but I would rather work for those 4 to 5 years that I would otherwise be in school and make money and develop skills and pay mentors and read books and educate myself, as opposed to going and learning from some dude who, makes 60 grand a year and is telling you how to do whatever it is you're trying to do, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's my thoughts. So that's number 5. You can make money without a degree. You do not have to go to college by any means. Number 6, taxes matter a lot more than you think. And this is something that all of us need to pay more attention to, because taxes are your biggest expense. A lot of people don't think that they are, but they just are. Taxes are a massive expense. You need to learn how to mitigate your taxes as much as possible. And again, this is not financial advice. This is not legal advice, but there are ways to reduce your tax bill as much as you possibly can, legally, of course. A lot of that is through real estate. There's different tactics you can use. Again, I'll make a whole video about this as well, because this is a completely different subject. It's hard enough to go out there and make big money, but once you make a lot of money, you have to learn how to keep that money, right? Otherwise, you're just working for the government at that point, right? So you have to learn how to play the game of taxes. All the super rich people that you and I, follow and that we listen to, all those people are very, very good at managing and mitigating their tax bill. And that's extremely important, right? Number 6, I think. Let me see. Okay, compounding interest. Income matters more than budgeting. Avoid lifestyle creep. Credit. Make money without a degree. Taxes is number 6. Number 7, you guys need to learn how to sell or market, right? These 2 skills are always, always, always going to be in demand. And it's something that if you learn, you will never be poor, right? If you can learn how to sell someone else's product or your own product, trust me, you're always going to have a job. You're always going to be able to make money, right? If you can learn how to market a product so that someone else can sell it, you're always going to have a job. You're always going to be able to earn active income, because again, that's the world we live in is based upon selling products. That's basically what it is. Products and services, it doesn't sell itself. So someone has to go out there and, knock on doors or answer phone calls or run the ads or do any of these different things to be able to generate that demand. And that is something that's not going away. AI is not going to replace that. Technology is not going to replace that. People want to sell their products and services, and that will always be the case to the end of time, right? So if you can learn those skills, then you are going to be in very good shape, right? Delayed gratification wins. This is number 8. Right? You guys have to understand that good things take time, and that if you are going to be successful, you're at anything, whether it's marketing, sales, real estate, whatever it might be, you're not going to be successful at it for 5 to 10 years, man. If you only do something for a year or two, even a YouTube channel, that's the way I'm trying to look at this channel. It's like, if I only do this for a year or two, I'm probably not going to be successful. All the people that have big YouTube channels or successful businesses, they've been doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, man. And that's the kind of commitment that you have to make, right? So you have to, and again, this is kind of cliche and, the stuff that you guys probably hear all the time, but that's why it's so important to not quit whatever it is you're doing. If you've been in an industry for a long time, keep working in that industry, because you probably know a lot more than most people. And if you can just stick around for a really long time, longer than everybody else, you're going to learn all the skills, you're going to make all the mistakes, and you're going to have all that experience that you can then use to be able to build a successful company or a successful YouTube channel. Whatever it might be, you're going to be able to have all those skills that eventually, turn into the magic formula, so to speak. I'm holding up my fingers when I say this, the magic formula that is going to produce the results that you guys want in your life, right? So you have to delay your gratification. Nothing sexy about it, but that's just the way it is. Number 9, you have to avoid bad debt like the plague. And that's just the reality. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Good debt, an example of that might be buying a rental property, a real estate deal, right? If it's making money and you have debt on the property and the cash flow that's coming from that property is paying off the debt, that's good debt, because that debt is making you money. There's nothing wrong with having debt in that case. But having bad debt to go buy a Louis Vuitton bag or, go shopping, all this different kind of stuff, that's not good, right? You don't want to be putting that kind of stuff, you don't want to have bad debt, is my point. You can put that on a credit card and pay it off, but you don't want to be having, you know, that type of debt just revolving around your credit, and you're having that and you're getting hit with interest and penalties and all this different kind of stuff. That's how people get in really bad trouble, right? So again, understanding good debt versus bad debt and avoiding bad debt, which is consumer debt, like crazy. That should be common sense, but it's not, right? And last but not least, guys, time is your most valuable asset. This is something that we probably hear all the time. I've definitely heard this many times before. But especially if you're a younger guy, you know, in your 20s, 30s, you have to understand that, man, we've got a long time to make our dreams and our goals possible. And we're going to be doing this for a very long time in the future, right? So it's so important to build a good reputation, to not screw people over, to do things the right way, and to stick with whatever it is that we're doing and give our dreams enough time for them to come to fruition, right? If you look at this like we're baking a cake, right? You can't just throw all the ingredients together and throw that in the oven and just jack the oven up to 900 degrees and expect the cake to finish really quickly. It's going to come out and it's all going to be burnt. It's going to be a mess, and it's not going to be any good, right? We have to let the cake bake, right? We have to put the ingredients together and allow time to do its thing. Time is a massive component in success. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're trying to be a basketball player or a freaking YouTuber or a business person, it does not matter. Right? You have to allow time to factor in, and you have to allow your cake to bake, so to speak. Right? So just to recap, guys, compounding interest, you have to invest as early as you possibly can. We'll talk about that in another video as well. Income matters more than budgeting. Avoid lifestyle creep as much as you possibly can. Stay broke for as long as you can. Live like you're cheap. Live like you're a college student. Credit. Learn how to use credit. It's a tool. It's not free money. You can absolutely make money without a degree, right? Taxes matter more than you think. Learn how to play the tax game. Learn how to market or sell, which is AKA just learn a high value skill that's never going to go away. Those are always going to be in high demand. Delay your gratification for as long as possible, guys. Avoid bad debt and credit card consumer debt as much as you possibly can. And last but not least, time is your most valuable asset, so use it wisely and don't waste it, which is, again, this is probably not the first time you've heard any of this kind of stuff, but it's so important and it's definitely worth repeating. So anyway, guys, I hope this video helps you out. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if this is helpful. I'd love to hear your feedback. And let me know what else you guys want me to talk about and some of the other lessons that might be helpful to you. I might not have all the answers. I'm a regular guy, but I can definitely figure it out. And, if not, then we can collaborate with other people, who do have the answers, and we can make sure you guys get the information you need. So again, that's the whole goal with this channel, is just to kind of share some of the lessons that I've learned in my life and other people as well, just so that you guys don't have to learn those mistakes the hard way. So anyway, guys, subscribe to the channel, like the video. I love you guys, and we'll speak soon. Peace.